everyone, and welcome to Or Something, the podcast where we talk about the origins of things or something. I'm Kristen, and this is Carla.
Hi.
And we're here. That's just my declaration. We are here. Or are we? Ooh.
All right, I kind of feel like our introduction leaves a little bit to be desired.
Listen. Well, you do the introduction then, smartass.
No!
Well?
You're good at it. I'm just saying.
No, I need to think of something better to say.
Well, no, I just wanted to be extra clear that we're two friends who look into the origin of things, but not in a, super in-depth. Well, maybe not. That's not right. How on earth do we describe it?
Oh, no, it's not in-depth.
Unless you fall down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. We put a bare minimum of research into things, and then we laugh and talk.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it.
So we're fully aware that some of this stuff might not be correct, or our sources might not be the greatest, but we don't care because we're looking for fast answers.
Yeah. And you shouldn't care either, because if you really care that much, you should question your life.
Or, do the research yourself.
Well, yeah. You
right, because I'm not going to...
You do it.
Go talk to experts and everything. Although, if an expert or somebody listening is like, that's so wrong, how could you? Then please go to our Instagram, podcast.or.something. That's right? Mm-hmm. Which I haven't updated whatsoever.
But whatever, you can contact us through there if you want to. If you really tell us, had such a desire.
You're wrong. And I'll say, you know what? You're wrong.
Okay, so we've established that Carla just wants to fight with people, and she's encouraging you all to contact us so she can fight with you. That's awesome. If you want to be told you're wrong by Carla, feel free to reach out. We would love to hear from you.
And I'll gladly say you're wrong. And then you'll be like, nope, I'm right. And then I'll cry. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
We'll all cry. We'll have a good cry together.
So, speaking of crying, how has it been?
Same old, tears all the time.
I have my gosh. Kleenex nearby. Actually, I don't. Oh,
okay, God. I checked the... Go get your Kleenexes, damn it.
Oh, they're right here, but they're far away. All right. Where do I put them?
I don't know.
I have the world's tiniest podcast desk, and I have nowhere to put my Kleenex.
She's built a little desk out of books and stuff. So at some point, it's gonna topple over.
Earbuds
on top of her.
You're talking. I can't hear you. What did you say?
Nothing.
You son of a! I didn't hear you.
You're gonna have to listen to the episode to see whatever I say. Every time you leave your things, I talk about you.
Trick me into listening to our garbage. I mean, our quality content programming. Programming.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I checked the mail the other day and I freaked out because in my mailbox there was this, and I put it here in my little podcast closet so that I wouldn't forget to talk about it. This lovely Amazon catalog, Christmas catalog. I almost crapped my pants. I was like, what is happening? Amazon has a holiday. It's the Amazon's holiday kids gift book.
What?
Yeah, and inside they tell you, they have all these little. I know, it's actually pretty cute. They did a pretty good job. Damn it.
What does it say for 8-year-old boys? Because son of a.
There's lots.
I don't know what to get my nephew.
See, and that's the thing. You can definitely tell the toys in here. They have some stuff, a little bit for some older kids, but definitely the toys in here are for, kids that probably don't have their own phones and stuff yet.
Oh, okay.
But, an 8-year-old. There's Lego and stuff in here. There's tons of Legos. There's some...
This kid has everything. I'll never find Christmas presents. However, a catalog, I can't.
I know, right? And they put stuff in the beginning of get the app, you scan and shop. So you can scan each little thing, and they tell you open your Amazon app, tap the thing next to the search bar, scan the product image for listing, scan the QR code for more gifts.
What?
Isn't that
That's weird.
Crazy?
Why would they go back to a catalog thing? That's interesting.
Because they want
a waste of paper,
the
but
kids to
that's-
look at it and like circle all the things
you're
that they want.
right.
Like a friend of my sister-in-law, I follow her on Instagram, and her daughter is like, I think she's 8 or 9 or something like that, carries around this one sheet. She posted it, this one sheet with all these toys on it, and she's circled every single one, like these dolls on there. Every single thing on the page is circled. Like, she's like, I want these, like a big circle, and I want all these.
She has discerning
too.
taste.
Yeah, and she carries it around with her every day, like all the time. And she, this friend posted a different picture where they were doing some activity together or something. And sure enough, just out of reach of her, you could see just the edge of the catalog page. It was so funny. And I was like, that's the thing, like getting something in front of kids where they can just harass the crap out of their parents saying,
Yeah.
I want this one, I want this one.
See, I actually chase my nephew around with catalogs, and I force him to sit down. I have to force him. And I take a marker. I'm like, you need to circle what you want, because Santa needs to know. Santa. And he's like, well, okay. And then he just kind of
Does he not
circles.
want things?
Not really.
Well, then
I
tell
took
him he's not getting anything for Christmas.
He had no budget this time at Toys R Us. I said, no budget. And because I found out he has eye disease thing, and I was like devastated. So of course I'm going to just shower him with every gift I can imagine, right? So I'm like, you have no budget. Pick whatever you want. He left with like 2 little Lego sets.
Aww.
But you can get anything you want. He's like, nah, I don't know. I'm like, oh, kid, do you
my
have
gosh.
everything in the world? So
Yeah.
anyway.
Do you think,
Okay.
does he just not, like, does he get excited when he opens Christmas presents and stuff?
Oh, he does. He's
Okay.
very excited about new things, but he just doesn't really want a lot of things. It's, yeah. I'm like, okay,
Weird.
he's a picky eater, a picky toy player. I'm like, I can't with this kid. But he's my favorite little human.
But he's cute, so we'll keep him.
He is, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Is today the day? Tomorrow that they get the puppy, right?
yeah, no, Saturday.
Oh.
And, okay, everyone listening, our family, future family, listen to the betrayal, okay?
Oh no.
So I am basically another member of I am a member of their family, but I mean, I was at their house all the time, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, stopping by for 5 minutes on Saturday, no big deal. No,
Yeah.
I'm banned. Everyone's banned because they want to bond with the puppy. I'm like, oh, what did you just say to me?
Unacceptable.
Like the betrayal. I'm so mad at my sister. I'm like, no, like I don't even know what to. I'm so mad. I need to see this puppy.
Yeah.
Like 5 minutes. 5
5
minutes
minutes.
to take her little cheeks,
Okay,
squeeze them really
so
hard,
here's
keep her
the
in my
thing.
jacket, take her home, keep her forever.
That's why.
Like, it's just 5 minutes.
But their punishment now is going to be that you're going to spend 12 hours with them on Sunday.
That's exactly what I said. I'm like, okay, 5 minutes on Saturday or 18 hours on Sunday. They're like,
Exactly.
Sunday. I'm like, okay, you asked for it.
You got it.
But yeah, so I will
Aw.
see Zelda
Oh.
on Sunday.
Oh my gosh, you have to take
so
all
mad.
the videos. I know, right?
Furious. All right,
So
let's
cute.
get to it.
Okay. Who goes first?
Your turn. Your turn.
Your turn. Carla turned
Like
into a robot.
I did. By the way, I'm a robot. Maybe that'll give us some listeners. I am a robot. Would
Okay.
robots even say that, though?
I mean,
Would they declare
I wouldn't if
am?
I was a robot. I'd try to pretend I was a human.
Would you really?
Nothing to see here. You guys missed it, but I did my robot arms so that it was like really convincing.
Oh my god, okay. I said don't start with me today.
Okay.
Crying.
I just won't say anything funny. It's impossible. I'm hilarious.
Nothing to see here. Okay.
Okay, so I'm kind of a little bit continuing the Halloween theme from last
What?
week because it was a little bit unintentional because so I was listening to just quickly, my sources for this are I'll tell you what my topic is first because it gives it away. So I was listening to this podcast called Morbid, which is awesome. It's really good. It's like true crime and stuff like that, but they also do stuff about spooky things and like whatever, generally spooky stuff. But so they recently had an episode about the Winchester Mystery House, which is out near San Francisco, that I went to when I was out there on my road trip.
Yeah.
And there's that movie about it or whatever, but there's all kinds of different speculation about what actually went on there. It was a really interesting episode that they did on it that gave me a lot more information, even though I've been there, and like there's just a lot of urban myths surrounding this house and the woman who built it all and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, in it, they talk about the recurrence of the number 13 in a lot of designs throughout the house. Okay. And a lot of people want to attribute a lot of like really like occult kind of like spooky stuff to this house, that was the intention behind it, but I don't think it actually really was. So they kind of talked about how they're like, yeah, but they didn't think that it was specifically set out to do like 13. Like it just was aesthetically nicer, or in certain situations, like a lot of staircases typically have 13 steps and that kind of thing. But it got me thinking, and it made me wonder why the number 13 became associated with negativity, being unlucky, and spookiness in general. So this week I'm doing like, what's the deal with the number 13? Why is that superstition there around the number 13?
Does the baker's dozen come in at any point?
No, but I did see that somewhere. People talked about the baker's dozen. So in some ways, like 13 is a really positive number, and that was an example of it being positive. Whereas the baker's dozen, you get an extra thing, and everybody's like, oh yeah, they want a baker's dozen, of course. Pay for 12, get 13, right?
See, I imagine you break an egg and that's unlucky, so the baker's dozen. Anyway, that you would need. I don't know. I just wondered. Let's not. My brain shouldn't be explored.
Good effort.
Go on.
There.
I'm so shut up. But go on.
Okay, so my sources for this are history.com. There was a really good like kind of article blog thing on the Ohio State University's website, which was called Is 13 Really That Unlucky? By Robertson.113. And the blog itself, I just love the name of it. It's called The Psychology of Extraordinary Beliefs. It's ordinary students exploring extraordinary beliefs, which I love the idea of it. And some of the stuff they had in there, I was like, whoa, cool, like that they covered different cool topics.
That's my favorite ad for anything. Whoa, cool.
Yeah, I can't give you any specific information, but trust me, it was cool. Whoa. And Wikipedia, of course.
Of course.
Okay.
Hey, no, you know what though? Wikipedia, a lot of good people put good work into it, so.
That's true. Remember back in the day when like you couldn't trust it at all? I mean, now you still probably can't trust it a little bit, but it's definitely better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So fear of the number 13 is actually a specifically recognized phobia, and it's called Triscodechaphobia.
What?
And that word was coined in 1911.
An actual phobia?
Yeah. And then even further, and I didn't write it down, but there's an actual phobia word for fear of Friday the 13th. And I'm like, really? Is it that big of a thing? But it is.
Wow.
So it's estimated that 10% of the U.S. population has a fear of the number 13, like to an insane degree. And there are definitely some famous people that have it, like Stephen King is one of them.
Really?
Yeah. And he said, like in some article, that he'll never stop reading a book on certain pages, like page 76, because the two numbers add up to 13. He'll never, he's really superstitious about the number 13.
Wow.
That's crazy. There's also this other guy, I can't remember what his name was. He was some kind of composer or something in Europe that was like notoriously like afraid of the number 13. And so much so that he would never have a 13th bar or whatever. When he would write music, he would leave out the 13. Like he'd skip it. And he ended up actually dying on a Friday the 13th.
No.
Isn't that crazy? I'm like, no way. Talk about manifesting your destiny there, guy.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Or his wife was sick of him bitching about it and she killed him.
Yeah, it's just like, you idiot. I'll show you.
Yeah.
But it also seems that this superstition is primarily a Western construct. Some cultures, including ancient Egyptians, actually considered the number 13 to be very lucky. And other parts of the world consider other numbers to be unlucky. Like in Asia, it's the number 4, generally, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting there because in something that I read, because I didn't want to go down that whole rabbit hole, although I really could have, they said that I think part of the reason why the number 4 is considered unlucky is because the pronunciation of it sounds very similar to the word death, like how they pronounce death in their language. I think in one of the Chinese languages.
Great.
So, it's like,
so
okay,
I was
that
born
makes sense.
on Death Day. Wonderful.
Yeah. But for other people, it's like, you know, I don't know. And in Italy, the number 17 is unlucky. And specifically Friday the 17th
What?
is like super unlucky. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Huh.
So the fear of the number 13 has gotten so bad in America that many hotels, hospitals, airports, etc. don't have a 13th floor or don't use the number 13 for different rooms and stuff like that. Which I always thought is so crazy. I'm like, oh, is that really, is it that big of a thing? But a lot of people have said that, like, the media and some of these places that don't have the 13 in it, that it's just perpetuating it and making people believe that it's a bigger deal than it actually is.
Well, yeah.
Right? Because I remember the first time I went to a hotel and I'm like, it goes from 12 to 14. Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, you guys know that floor is still technically the 13th floor. It's not,
right?
Right? Like
if
you
they
just
start
calling it
building
something
like just
different.
gap, like the spaces between the buildings,
Yeah, right.
fine. Go for
Yeah.
it. But like, no.
But like logically, you're not fooling anybody. If you really believed that much, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't stay on the 14th floor either.
Can I admit something? It fools me. Because I didn't even think of the fact that it is the 13th floor. Like, no, the number isn't there.
Okay, so it worked.
It's good. It's all
You're
good.
fine. Okay, good to know. They had a solid plan.
Yes. They asked the right people, like me. Dum-dums.
Are you scared of the number 13? How do you feel about it?
No, actually, Friday the 13th.
That's usually lucky for me, actually.
Yeah, it's a lucky day. Not like every time, obviously, right? But like, I noticed a pattern that I didn't have. I had actually like a very good day.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th. So
my brother's birthday's on the 13th of June 13th, and so he's had his birthday on Friday the 13th before.
What's his social insurance number?
And his address.
Yeah.
And his full name.
Credit card number?
Let's put his fingerprint up on Instagram as a picture. Okay, so I'm going to tell you now that, like, nobody really knows where this, like,
well, then why are we recording this? Get the hell out of here.
And I'm done.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit unsatisfying doing research about it because nobody could really clearly be like, oh, here's where it started, and then it got more popular here, and this and this. So I'm just going to kind of go over like some of the major themes or some of the major things that most people touched on of where it kind of came from or where they think it came from, whether that was true or not.
I'm ready.
Okay. So the first theory is about the 13th guest. So there is a Norse myth about 12 gods having a dinner party in Valhalla. The trickster god Loki, who was not invited, arrived as the 13th guest to this dinner and arranged for Hoder, he was the blind god, to shoot his brother Balder, and he killed him. So Balder was the god of light, joy, and goodness. And there was like a quote from this thing saying, Balder died and the whole earth got dark. The whole earth mourned. It was a bad, unlucky day. So, because it was the 13th person that came to the party, right? So some say that the superstition then spread down south throughout Europe and was well established along the Mediterranean by the start of the Christian era. And then it ended up being kind of cemented into consciousness, I guess, with the story of the Last Supper. which also had 13 people in attendance. And people believe that the 13th individual that came to the Last Supper was Judas, who ultimately betrayed Jesus and led to his death. Although there's nothing that states the order in which the disciples arrived to the Last Supper, but people like to kind of like beef it up, saying that Judas was like a last minute invite and he was like the 13th one. But regardless, there were 13 people at the Last Supper.
Dang.
So this idea of like the 13th guest being like a negative force or like this negative thing led to a trend in the 1880s that saw people refusing to have meals with 13 people at them. The superstition that came from this was that if there were 13 people at a meal, then one person at the table would die within the next year.
Good God.
I know. So this in turn led to the creation of something called the 13 Club. So in 1881, an influential group of New Yorkers led by the U.S. Civil War veteran Captain William Fowler formed a dinner cabaret club called the 13 Club. At the first meeting on January 13th, 1881 at 8:13 p.m., 13 people sat down to dine in room number 13 of this venue that they were at. The guests walked under a ladder to enter the room and sat among piles of spilled salt. And they, like, I guess they became quite well known for, like, doing a lot of, like, tongue-in-cheek, like, a lot of kind of spooky stuff. So they'd have, like, salads, like lobster salad, but in the shape of a coffin and stuff like that. Like, they'd kind of, like, play up all of that stuff.
This is amazing.
Which sounds so fun. I would be down for that. I would do that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh.
So many 13 clubs popped up over North America over the next 45 years. And they had a lot of prominent people that went to them. They even included 5 future U.S. presidents. So there was like Chester A. Arthur to Theodore Roosevelt. They were all members of these 13 clubs. I know. I don't know why U.S. presidents keep popping up in all of my research ones. Like, I think every single episode I've mentioned one.
Yeah.
Damn Americans. I mean, we love you. Or do we? And then, so they were around for about 45 years, and then they gradually faded away due to lack of interest, basically. So that's kind of like the 13th guest kind of theory behind where stuff started from.
Did you come across anything where it says, where it said that they did it, like, were they doing it to try to prove that a person would croak in a year?
So they were doing it to try to prove that those superstitions didn't hold any power.
Okay.
Yeah, so the very first one that they did, nobody died. Like, they were fine.
Yeah.
Like, it was fine. And so it started just as a way of, like, listen, you guys, we're doing all of these things that you're all so superstitious about, and nothing's happening to us. We're still fine, kind of thing.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was like, I want to do that.
I know.
Okay, so this other little tidbit is what a lot of people, what popped up a lot in where people said, like, why Friday the 13th? Specifically Friday the 13th.
Right. Okay.
So this one was the Knights Templar. So on Friday, October 13th, 1307... King Philip IV of France ordered the arrest of the Knights Templar, and most of the knights ended up being tortured and killed and it was like this big deal. Okay. But a lot of people say that because I guess in what the hell is that thing called? Tom Hanks is in the movie, and it was all about like.
Oh, Da Vinci Code?
Da Vinci Code, yeah. So in there, I guess they talk about it. I don't know. I haven't read it. I watched it once and I hated it, but they talk about it. So it kind of popularized that idea in like pop culture now. So that became a bit more of a popular idea, but there's not really anything else pointing to that stuff. The next kind of theory is that 12 is considered the perfect number.
What?
I know, which is weird because I would
so mad
never.
about that?
I know. I was kind of like, why would it be the perfect number? So in the ancient world, 12 was often considered a perfect number, And the ancient Sumerians developed a numeral system based on the use of 12 that is still used for measuring time today. So most calendars have 12 months. A single day is comprised of 2 12 half-hour days, 12 inches in a foot, 12 zodiac signs, 12 days of Christmas, like a dozen, 12 is something that is like very consistently used. And back in like the Mayan times, they were saying like the 2012 thing, like they used in ancient civilizations, 12 was like a big number.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm trying to think why. Maybe something agricultural or something, or
maybe.
Well, no. What happens? Like what celestial event happens every month? Something, I'm sure. So maybe they actually we're tracking the seasons and everything. Maybe it just meant
full moon.
Sure. Maybe
and so that's also like. So there are 12 full moons in a year. So that was something that came up too, where they were saying that for monks and stuff, like back in the day, when there were 12 full moons, like every once in a while there were 13 full moons in a year.
Oh.
And it would mess up their calendars, like how they were tracking things and all the calendars, and it was just annoying to them basically because it bumped all the holidays, it bumped all of that stuff. Basically like just an administrative nightmare. Right? So somebody did point to that where they're like, that could be part of why 13 is seen as negative, because when it would throw the system off when you're looking at 13, right?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So the very basic idea of this one is that the number 13 was naturally seen as imperfect because it happened to follow the perfect number. And I'm like, I don't know if that's so much of a thing.
Watch, it was, though, like that reason.
Yeah.
You're just nagging an entire, like, ancient people.
What do they know? They just learned how to make calendars out of nothing.
And how to survive.
Okay, and the last one, which seems a little far-fetched, but actually to me seems a little bit more like a likely cause, is basically, like I wrote down, toxic masculinity ruins the party again. So throughout history, the number 13 has been connected to female energy. There are 13 menstrual cycles a year, along with 13 lunar cycles. In most cultures, the moon is associated with women. Fertility was prized in pagan times, and artwork would often draw connections to menstruation, fertility, and the phases of the moon. Ancient cultures celebrated the number 13 in connection to the goddess archetype, the divine feminine, and physical regeneration. So there was even... like, remember when we studied those, like the woman of whatever, the really, really ancient carvings of women who clearly like had like kind of bigger bellies and like were fertility goddesses and stuff. So there was one that I saw on one of the articles that I read where it clearly has her, she's there and she's like a fertility kind of goddess and she's holding this thing, this almost scepter in her hands that had 13 things coming off of it. So 13 did show up, and they said that it was very common in a lot of the artwork there that it was 13 was showing up with that.
Okay.
And specifically related to fertility and that type of thing. So interestingly, in pagan times, Friday was also believed to have a unique association with the divine feminine. The actual name Friday is derived from Old English and means day of Frigg. So Frigg. I know, right? Frigg was a powerful sky goddess in Norse mythology and was associated with love, marriage, and motherhood. Okay. She was worshipped widely across Europe, and because of this, Friday was seen as a lucky day for marriage by Norse people. And then as Christianity gained momentum in the Middle Ages, paganism stood at odds with the new patriarchal faith. So Christianity was totally patriarchal and didn't really I guess in Catholicism, you guys have Mary, but I mean, we had Mary too, but we didn't worship Mary or anything like that. Like, we didn't pray to her and do anything like that.
Yeah. But she didn't like rule the whole show anyway, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Very patriarchal. Yeah.
Yeah. So not only did Christian leaders take objection to the worship of multiple gods and goddesses, but the celebration of Friday, the number 13, and the goddesses who invoked love, sex, fertility, magic, and pleasure were deemed unholy. The Christians branded these deities and the women who worshipped them as witches. Isn't that crazy? So then there's this quote from this historical guy who, I don't have his name here, of course, because why would I? But and this is an actual quote from him. So when Norse and Germanic tribes converted to Christianity, Frigga, so she was also that Frigg, goddess Frigga, was banished in shame to a mountaintop and labeled a witch. It was believed that every Friday the spiteful goddess convened a meeting with 11 other witches plus the devil, a gathering of 13, and plotted ill turns of fate for the coming week. So to me, that kind of, like, that generally, that idea of 13 and whatever seems a little bit more plausible.
It does. It totally does. Yeah.
Because you kind of see the thread. It's like that paganism that they believed in it so much. And when Christianity came in, they're like, no.
They just bulldoze. Yeah.
You can't do that. So they have to flip it and turn it into a bad thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are a lot of places still where the number 13 is positive and it's like a lucky number for people. And it is like, it's still seen as a good thing, but it's mainly like in the Western world, like in the primarily Christian world, that it's taken on this negative kind of connotation connected with witches, so connected with spookiness and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
And the pagan stuff was like probably like deeply ingrained. It was around for a long, long time. So it does make sense that they would like have to. Yeah, that's way more plausible, I think.
Yeah.
Than the other ones.
Yeah.
Dang.
Because then basically, like, it was so hard to find stuff that was, all of the articles I found kind of explored the same things. Like, the same themes were running through everything.
Yeah.
And then when I was like, okay, well, Friday the 13th, like, what's going on there? And there was some book written by a guy in 1907 that, like, it was fiction, and it was talking about how this guy was plotting to, like, crash the stock market or something like that on Friday the 13th. And this book was called Friday the 13th. And then they talked about, and then in the 1980s, the Friday the 13th, like, horror movies came about.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like, other than that, they couldn't really speak to, like, why it became so associated with Halloween and spooky and scary and, like, unlucky and the occult and all of that kind of stuff. But I feel like the connection to the pagan, to the witches and that type of thing, I think could be, like, in my mind, it makes sense that that would be a natural.
It's sort of like left-handedness, how it became associated like with, you know, sinister, devil type stuff. And it just stuck with people. Like, I know my mom, like, she said that they would smack her hands, like, with a
Is your mom left-handed?
She was.
Oh.
But they basically beat it out of her.
Jeez.
In school. Because of that belief, right?
Because you're left-handed.
Mm-hmm. Mom, yeah, I'm both.
You're ambidextrous now, but
left-handed with writing mostly, yeah.
Yeah. But what about your sisters? They're right-handed, aren't they?
Right-handed, yeah. And it's because even my parents, like my dad, was pushing us to not be lefties. Like, I think my sisters probably were, like, naturally right-handed, but I know with me, my dad was always on my case.
Yeah.
To not use my left hand.
Was your dad right-handed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's right-handed.
Yeah.
Weird that it's such a strong...
Yeah. So it's kind of like the floors, how, like, people are leaving the number 13 off of elevator things and everything. It's like, I think it's just because it's so been around for so long. So the witch thing makes so much sense. Like, so much sense. Right?
It's interesting because in a lot of in certain places the superstition is much stronger. So with a lot of car racing, actually, there were like big bans on like you couldn't have the number 13 on your cars, like in Formula One and NASCAR and all those things. Yeah. Horse racing, same thing. Where they would have like the stockades for the horses where it would go from 12 and then 12A and then 14 or whatever. So I'm like, that's still the 13th one, you dummies, but whatever.
Oh my gosh.
But I think like generally if you're looking at that kind of stuff as like, then there's gambling and whatever involved with those, then there's more superstition generally associated with them. So they're a bit more likely to
they have like
lean into it.
Every superstition going. Can you imagine? Navigating that world, it'd be a nightmare.
It'd be a nightmare. You couldn't do anything.
Yeah. Have a black cat, you're banned. No.
Yeah, exactly. Just carry a ladder around with you everywhere. All right, that was mine.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing conclusive, but it was a little bit of something.
It's amazing. I'm really jealous. Like, I wish I knew. Well, I don't know if I'd want to know the person who had those dinner parties. Who was it? A colonel? Somebody?
Yeah, it was.
Well,
Captain William Fowler.
Oh, Captain. Okay. Yeah, I want there to be a movie about that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just want to watch this happen. I think it would be so fun to see this, like, you know.
I know when I was.
This is foolish. Come on, gentlemen. Let's have a dinner.
Yeah.
Yes. Show me this.
I know. It was funny. Like, I totally thought the same thing. I'm like, I could see this in a movie. Like, I could see them kind of covering this a little bit. Even as a side thing or whatever, where it would be cool.
No, the whole movie has to just be the dinner at the end. That was great. Thank you for enlightening me. I'm excited because now I actually because I never actually thought about it, right?
I never thought about it either. And it totally hit me when they talked about it. And I was like, oh, why 13 of all the numbers? It could be anything, really. Like, there must be some significance there. But turns out, nope, there isn't. We don't know.
Wow. I mean, don't want to turn into a witch or whatever.
Exactly. Or whatever. Yeah.
Or something. Okay, so.
Tell me yours.
Okay. Mine's a disaster.
It's going to be
a full-blown disaster. I did so much research. If you want to talk rabbit holes, this was the ultimate rabbit hole.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, okay, consult your notes when you're doing your thing. Make sure you like have your quotes and this and this. But I think I'm going to try something a little bit like irresponsible.
Hey, that's what this podcast is all about.
I think I'm just going to talk about it as best I can. Okay. I might have to flip through my papers because there might be some stuff, but all right. So, ice hockey. Where did ice hockey start? Who invented it?
Whoa.
Yeah. So let's just
like
say
a heavy hitter there.
Oh,
Holy
okay.
cow.
So when you go back to the beginning, like the first organized indoor game, which was 1875 in Montreal.
Okay.
First, like, that was kind of documented. Everyone agrees that was like the first proper organized game.
Sorry to interrupt very quickly. Yep. How is ice hockey not our national sport?
It isn't?
No, lacrosse is our national sport.
Well, because lacrosse, I've come across, was played by Indigenous people and stuff, like in North America.
Oh.
Like throughout North America and everything. So, I mean, it's one of the stick and ball games that was, like we were...
Okay, makes a bit more sense.
I'm pretty sure we invented it. I didn't
we also invent basketball in that Heritage Minutes? Okay, never mind.
Yeah, that's what I think it was. The guy with the peach baskets?
Yeah.
No, it's a good question. I was just trying to remember. But,
okay, carry on. Sorry.
No, yeah. I forgot who has ice hockey as their... Russia. That's their national sport. Russia barely factors into my research whatsoever. I mean, I looked into it, but they have no claim to anything. I'm sorry, Russia. It's just you. They have claim to like wonderful achievements in like terms of like when the modern game already existed, but I don't care about any of that. I'm not going to talk about anything past 1875 because 1875 roughly is when the rules were okay. See? I'm already like just rabbit hole, like all these offshoots. So 1875, that's fine. Okay, whatever, Montreal. But the beginning of hockey, ice hockey in Canada, there are tons of claims to who invented it.
Okay.
Already. And when you go back further to, back in time, it gets even more muddy. And when you go further, it's even more muddy. So let this be a lesson to anyone who's into researching anything historical. There's never going to be a clear answer, and it's frustrating. And a lot of websites made very definitive claims, which was frustrating because I would write it down and be like, okay, here's my answer. And then I would read something else, which would refute it. And I'm like, so why did that website feel like, entitled to say this? Okay. So I don't know how to do this, if I should go forward or backwards. I think I'll go with places that are claiming hockey as their invention in Canada. So generally it is accepted that ice hockey became huge and evolved into its modern form in Canada.
Okay.
So the Canadian thing isn't so much up for debate, right?
Okay.
In terms of how the modern game works. But hockey is a stick and ball game. There are still stick and ball games, lacrosse, and so things I'll cover like bandy and hurling, and other things. So in terms of like ice hockey Canada proper, people, or Windsor, Nova Scotia, they claim it.
Oh.
Montreal, Quebec, they claim it. Halifax, Nova Scotia, they claim it. Delaney, Northwest Territories, they claim it.
Whoa.
I think there was one other one, possibly. And the Micmac peoples, First Nation peoples in Canada, they don't claim it entirely, but they are well known for making hockey sticks, the first hockey sticks.
Whoa, cool.
Right. Okay. So it was this whole thing. I researched all of these places, all of their claims to hockey, but I'm just going to simplify it.
Yeah.
Basically, it seems to be generally agreed upon that hockey started to be played on the ice in Nova Scotia. So that's a bit of a clue. Played on the ice. Right?
Oh.
Supposedly. This is one thread I have to kind of go down. When we go across the pond to Europe, that's going to be a whole other thing. But anyway, so Nova Scotia, this is the tricky part because some places claim that the English brought it over. Some people claim it was the Irish influence. The Irish thing is probably the strongest claim.
Which is hilarious because when you think of ice hockey, you do not think Irish.
No, you do not. Clue, they're the ones who play hurling. So. And then Scottish, too. But then the Micmac were heavily connected immediately with the Nova Scotia hockey stuff, right? Because of the sticks. What I could not find was anything about Micmac hockey or stick and ball games. And definitely nothing about ice hockey, right? Because the other thing you'd have to go into is the history of ice skating.
Skating, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because some references to like older ice hockey games, they didn't play with skates. It was just on foot on the ice. Right. So if you're talking about skating proper, right? Like, where do you go?
But I would think also like the lack of stuff written down about the First Nations people is because they had an oral tradition. Like they weren't necessarily writing their history down, right?
Even with the oral tradition, like the Delaney people, the reason they claim that hockey was invented there was because what's his name? Franklin, that Arctic explorer guy. I forgot his first name. When he went with his buddies up there, they supposedly played hockey for the first time there. But one of the, I guess, elder people there, he said that in the oral tradition, the only thing that was really referenced was men kind of like flying across the ice, sort of thing. So it sounded like they were referencing skating, but not specifically hockey.
Oh, okay.
So Franklin and the men might have had ice skates, right? Or made ice skates or whatever. And so that's the tricky thing, especially with the oral histories. It's like, are they very specific? And if they are like that, where they don't actually reference the hockey, like the stick part, stick and ball, or a stick and puck, you know, was it hockey, right? Or just skating.
Right.
So, and that's important. One historian, a hockey historian, he was like, the important thing to remember is that in North America, there are just a few references here and there for each of these claims. And they're weak references. There's nothing really, not to be like, you know, offend any of these cities that are claiming it, but, you know, so I'll just jump to the next part. When you look at Nova Scotia, you quickly realize that hurley, bandy, and shinty are the three games that were brought over across, like, from Europe, right? Hurley was played by hurling, I should say, was played by the Irish. Bandy is an English game, and shinty was Scottish. And they were all like stick and ball games, basically.
Okay. I love those names, by the way.
I know, right? I have to mention field hockey as well, English sport.
Oh.
And field hockey does predate ice hockey. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So the journey was really like crazy because there were offshoots left and right. Because one mentioned, okay, so let's go back. So we have Canada, Nova Scotia, consensus. Now, I think people would agree that all of these different groups, so the English, the Scottish, the Irish, all the immigrants and everything, they started playing in Nova Scotia. Micmac were all in there. You know, they all worked together and it evolved from there and spread from the east to the west throughout Canada.
Okay.
So, and then it led to the people, like newspapers starting to comment on the games. They started to print ice hockey rules. And then it all culminates basically to 1875 Montreal, the first organized indoor ice hockey game.
Interesting, because then if they printed the rules, then anybody could start kind of playing their own, but according to rules that were already printed out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. The rules, people think came from, well, no, they're short. They came from England. So the Hockey Association in England, they covered both field hockey and ice hockey, and they wrote the rules. So even the rules came over from England.
Okay.
So basically, ice hockey is not Canada's sport in the sense that the precursor sports didn't.
Okay, so it's kind of like the rules and everything existed already, but they didn't do ice hockey in Britain before we did in Canada?
Well, this is where it gets more muddy.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. It seems to have existed in England, ice hockey. So ice hockey, which was really more like ice hurling or ice bandy or whatever, I can't remember which one, I think ice bandy, I guess, existed. But ice hockey proper modern definitely evolved more like in Canada, right?
Okay.
So I'll start with the English thing because I keep referencing it. So all the way back up to, when was it? Let's see. Sorry, I have to look for my date here. Basically, the English royals, they were exiled at some point, I think in the 1600s. I don't know what the hell was happening in history at that point, but yeah, 1660. They're exiled to the Netherlands, and they came back with ice skates and a love for skating. Right.
Which is so, very quickly, so funny because, so for a a lot of the like Dutch scenes that people see in art and stuff are of people ice skating on the canals. But it's extremely uncommon for it to get cold enough for them. Like, they don't get a lot of winter weather there. It's like a pretty rare occurrence for them to have. It's like once every 10 years or something.
Yeah, they talk about, like great freezes happening.
Yeah.
That's where.
And when they do, then everybody does go out. But like people, it's not, they don't go skating all the time. They quite often don't get snow, you know. It's just so funny that that's such a perpetuated kind of idea about...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dutch did perfect... it was like Dutch welders or something like that. Dutch something, or pipe workers or something that they actually... Oh, Dutch drainage workers. Likely introduced metal-bladed skates to an area of England with lots of canals.
Cool. That's pretty cool.
There is a passion for skating in the Netherlands. Right?
There is, for sure.
World renowned.
Speed skating.
Speed skater, yeah.
It's just so funny that it's associated with them when it doesn't happen that often naturally. Like here, I would go skating on the lake outside of our house as a kid every single winter.
Yeah.
You know, but there
so
it's
funny.
not.
Yeah, anyway, so I actually looked into Netherlands in terms of ice hockey, and it's not a thing.
No, it's not.
I mean, but here's the thing. They had a game that was basically like golf hockey called like Colvin or something like that, that they would play on frozen canals and ponds. And you see this frozen golf type game in a famous painting by Peter Bruegel.
Actually sounds kind of fun.
65. It's that Hunters in the Snow. I think you'd remember where there's the guys. Yeah, it's a winter scene, and in the distance, you see
that little
people on the ice.
Yeah,
and they have sticks and a ball.
Oh,
and so some people mistakenly say that that's ice hockey.
No way.
And people are like, well, no, technically it's this ice golf game that they played.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And so, like researching, going back in time, stick and ball games, it goes all the way back, like all over the world, right? Yeah. Everyone had some version of a stick and ball game.
Well, if you've got a stick, it feels good to hit something with it.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
So who doesn't want to do that?
It was on like Grecian urns and vases or whatever. Vases, and like I think the Aztecs had a game. And so, I mean, how far back can you go to, right? Like you can keep going, it's a precursor to ice hockey. Well, I don't know.
That's exactly what I had when I was looking at soccer and stuff, where it's like, of course, like there's all these different people simultaneously are creating these, because it doesn't take much imagination to kick a ball with your feet, right?
Right. Yeah. And I guess it's the same with sticks, and some of the more ancient ones were just really brutal and aggressive, and they were just beating the hell out of each other, and there were actual penalties. And some versions of these early stick and ball games, they had penalties. They had fines that they had to pay.
No way.
Some people died because they were just basically unprotected, and they had these like heavy balls being shot at their like body parts. And
oh my gosh.
So like these stick and ball games, like, but people think that it had to do with like martial training, so it's a way to like strengthen and train people for like the battlefield, right? Kind of hone their skills. So it's not like these games were purely just for entertainment,
right?
I think a lot of times it was very much about like, let's get active and get into shape so we can kill our neighbors. So here's the thing. When you get over to Europe, there's a lot of people that kind of either settle on like bandy being the precursor to Canadian ice hockey, or hurling. Shinty, the Scottish one, sort of, but hurling and bandy were the most common. Irish hurling, they still play it, but it's on the grass. It's apparently like the world's fastest stick and ball game. It's very like aggressive.
Okay. And
they play it on a grass pitch, so it's not on ice, right? But that's not to say that they didn't play it on ice at some point. And there's like so much research of like, where did the word hockey come from? And the word puck apparently was like from a Scottish word or something. I don't know. It's just so much research, and I'm like, whatever. Point is, English played it. And even Charles Darwin, he references in a letter to his son. So, okay, so this is the bandy thing now. Back to the UK thing. I'm all over the place. But Darwin said, I used to be very fond of playing at hockey on the ice in skates. So there you can kind of see the clue, hockey on the ice. Right. So they were playing bandy, right? But they think that the reason that the English started calling it hockey has to do with that instead of a ball they switched to a cork that was a stopper for like beer casks or barrels.
Okay, yep.
So they would use the cork as a puck, and the popular ale at the time was Hawk Ale, and so they feel like hockey.
That's where it came from.
Yeah, the name. But there's
that's so cool.
Other claims too, right? So, but they used the curved sticks too, so it wasn't just like a flat stick. I mean, hurling it doesn't have like a curved stick. Like when you Google the modern game, it's just like this flat kind of thing. But in old pictures and everything, you can see like even in those old Dutch painting, they have curved kind of sticks. So if it's a golf thing, ice golf. Fine. If it's an ice hurley, fine. The point is people were playing ice stick and puck or stick and ball games in Europe before they even came to Canada. So, I mean, I have a ton of details. I don't even know if I want to get into all of them. It's really not important. I think it's like I wanted to keep it a little more succinct. I can't say that word. Succinct?
Succinct.
Crazy word. And it's a shame because I did so much research, but I feel like that's it. That's basically.
So then to do for that game in 1875, like then they would have had established rules and everything and teams then, right?
Well, it was slightly different still to like the modern thing. I think they had 9 players per side. Back in the old days, there was just like up to 30 people on the ice in Europe. They were doing whatever the hell they wanted.
Entire villages out there.
But the UK English Hockey Association, because field hockey is its whole other thing, right?
Okay.
So if they're playing field hockey, and they're loving it, then they would, of course, had plenty of opportunity to like adapt to playing on frozen canals.
Yeah.
Like their own version of like ice bandy or whatever, but they called it hockey.
I think it makes sense that it would develop in Nova Scotia because they have brutal winters. Like they have crazy winters.
Well, that was the point of entry for most of the immigrants and like military type people that were like the forts and all that. And
right.
So yeah, they just loved it. They played it. They like to attribute it to the Irish thing because there was a principal who was from Ireland, principal of a school, and he apparently got all the kids into hurling. But then when winter came, they're like, well, what are we going to do? Yeah. So they claim that that's where it went to the ice. But it seems like ice hurling could have existed even before.
But I feel like that must have happened simultaneously with so many different people because I think that's just a natural progression of like, oh, okay, well, what are we going to do when it's like 8 months of winter and it's ice and whatever? Who doesn't like sliding along on the ice? Oh, we can play it here, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was very much like just people really passionate about this game. They thought it was so fun because the concept that there were goals on either side, that was in existence in all of these like original games, like hurling and bandy and shinny or shinty.
Well, people still play shinny, right?
Yeah, they do, and they still play hurling. Bandy, I'm not sure. I think bandy was the one that officially turned into like hockey proper.
Oh, okay.
Or ice hockey, maybe, because they still play field hockey. So that's the whole thing. But so that's it. I mean, we have a lot of people that played stick and ball games.
That's crazy. I love that it was created or like officially like kind of made official in Canada, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I just
Yeah,
assumed,
it was.
like, I mean,
Yeah.
it is such a huge sport here.
Right. But the English do have a claim to it.
Right.
Because
I mean, the
in their
English,
records-
everything came from them. Because they
Yeah.
took over the whole
Yeah.
planet. So, of course, there's going to be the influence of British stuff everywhere, right?
But no, but we definitely are the place where the game took off and the rules were like modernized and simplified and like streamlined, I should say, right?
Okay.
So yes, they did use the rules from the Hockey Association, but the game evolved here. Like there's no question that the game evolved as it spread
Okay.
throughout Canada. Because we don't have 9 players on the ice now, we have 6, right? And obviously things change. Right?
I'd like to go talk to whoever created the icing rule and those rules that I still can't figure out for the life of me when I'm watching it. And people are like, that was icing. I'm like, what are you talking about? No.
I know. Yeah.
It's so,
but a
and,
lot
like,
of the original
offside.
rules are from those original precursor games, so hurling and that kind of thing. Like, I
Yeah.
think hurling, I could be wrong, but hurling I think is the one where you can't pass the puck or the ball forward.
Oh, so it's like rugby in that
player.
way. Okay.
Yeah. And that still stands.
That's what it is in hockey?
In ice hockey. Yeah, you can't pass forward. You have to be... Because
Really?
isn't it an offside? I'm pretty
I
sure.
don't know. See, that's,
You can't
I
just
don't
shoot
understand
wherever.
it. No,
I know, it's a
well,
whole thing. I think until you get to by the net or something. No, I'm pretty sure it's like some kind of rule. I don't watch
I know
hockey,
that
but-
there's like 2 different rules that are about something about like they can't get like certain players from a certain team can't be on the other side before the puck. Like the puck has to go first.
Right.
I think that's icing.
Maybe that's what it is?
I don't know. But this is what I'm talking about. Why? Why does it need to be so complex? Do you remember back in the day, I think in the 90s or something, where they tried to do, they made the puck, like when you watched the game on TV, they made the puck glow blue so that you could watch it. And we were all outraged. We were like we kind of loved it a little bit because it's like, yeah, it can be hard to see sometimes. But then we all were just outraged by it. We were like, this is ridiculous. Anybody who knows hockey knows how to look for the puck on the ice. We were so mad about it. Outraged. And yeah, I don't know the rules for it at all, but I was like, it's just a matter of principle.
Yeah. No, I know.
very
It's the same with the logos that they started to put on the screen. They're just like, only you would see them at home. So
Oh, yeah.
with stuff on the ice, I'm like, that's distracting. Get that out of my face.
Yeah.
I love that I watched hockey so much, but I still don't know the rules.
Same. I know we watched
We have
hockey
to. We're
so much as a
Canadian.
kid. Yeah.
But it's so fun. Like I was talking about,
I only like it though when it's like playoffs or something.
right? Yeah, when it's like a good rivalry kind of
Yeah.
situation, and playoffs is kind of the only time where it's like ramped up, right?
Yeah. And it's like a good game where it's actually really close and you're like, no, that's going to be awesome.
So
That's like
I
with any
completely
sport, I
forgot
guess.
that we did soccer. I didn't realize I was doing another sport.
Who cares?
And when I was doing the research, I was furious because it reminded me of the Marshall thing where I just kept going back to ancient times. I'm like, I'm not going to find the beginning of ice hockey in Egypt. So just...
Or are you? I know there was one thing that came up for mine where it was like the Code of Hammurabi or whatever. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
it's not real.
Oh, I know. I have like 5th century. I have like 12th century BCE of like all these references to, I think it was Shinty. This time, the Scottish one. I'm like, geez, how far back does this game go? Like, they think
That's
like
crazy.
hurling was brought to Ireland by the Celts, and I'm like, what? So these things, like those particular stick and ball games, those have really like
real big histories.
far-reaching history. Yeah, like it's
Whoa.
really, really cool. Actually, like I think they're worth looking into for people. So again, Irish hurling, English bandy, and Scottish shinty or shinny. They're pretty cool. And there's also like Swedish versions. There's Icelandic, like Viking kind of versions.
There
of stick and
must
ball
be
games.
because it's so like there have to be.
Oh yeah. Oh, every culture had something. Like China had a whole.
Except Russia,
Stick and
they
ball
had
game?
nothing.
See, Russia, I don't know what the hell their thing was because it's their national sport, but it genuinely sounds like they it was just kind of introduced to them in the 1920s, and then by the 1930s or 40s, they were like, okay, let's play hockey.
But I think
They're
it's
like,
also, I
about
think
your
that's
history?
the thing, though, is like, good luck getting the history on that, right? Like,
That's true.
it's the
Well,
same
no,
with,
but
like,
if it's their national sport, you think there'd be entire, like, huge encyclopedic, like, things of, it's
Maybe.
our history because of this
yeah,
and
we
this.
created it. Just
But no.
writing their own thing.
What they were known for is, like, coaching and creating, like, in the modern game, the strategy that, like, basically they just were unstoppable by Americans, Canadians, everybody. They could not be beaten until there was a huge upset game, I think in the 70s. I think there was a movie about it too, where it was this huge upset where they're like, oh my gosh, we beat the Russians. And they went crazy.
Whoa.
I don't know.
I feel like just anything like that, like the Russians and the Chinese, where it's like they are very dedicated to whatever it is that they're doing. They're like extremely driven and dedicated to like, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like regardless of anything else, where it's like kids don't need to go to school. They just need to go to hockey school, which is something that's definitely lacking in the Western world, which is probably why they think we're all a bunch of chumps.
Well, I was coming back from my appointment and I went past the university train station, and we're still in pandemic mode, right? So I understand like people aren't going to be that eager to go to in-person learning at the university, right? But if you're vaccinated, you can go.
Yeah.
And I really, this just illustrates your point perfectly. Most of the people on the platform were Asian.
Yeah.
Specifically Chinese, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, why don't we have that work ethic?
Yeah, I know. We're a bunch of lazy
Where are all
bastards.
those slacker kids? Yeah, it's like, you stupid white kids, get to class. Appreciate what you have.
I think because we just want to look like we've got our shit together without actually having to have our shit together. Maybe.
That's a good point, because I was looking at those students and they looked just so, but they looked so happy and just like back to normal and, responsible. And I'm thinking, these kids are so young and they're all going to be something amazing, probably.
Yeah.
They all just look so put together. And I'm like, my life is a disaster. It's envy speaking, all right? I'm jealous.
Whatever, we've got this kick-ass podcast with like tons of great information in it. It's not accurate information, but it's great. No, I loved it.
Hey, my stuff was accurate this time. I was very excited because I could like remember a lot of things, but then it's those darn specific quotes that I'd like to pepper in,
Well, and I keep interrupting you all the time.
At it. No, it's just I feel like maybe I phoned it in a little, but I didn't.
You didn't.
I taught you something, right?
Yeah, I learned about stuff. It's
History's
cool,
just messy. That's the hard part.
Yeah, I just kind of assumed that hockey didn't actually like start here in Canada. That we just kind of adopted it as because we love playing it so much.
Oh, okay.
But that it wasn't like really.
Oh, and
that it was a myth. That it was a myth that it started here.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Yeah, and in that way you're right. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of Canadians would be ticked off hearing this. They're going to be like, how dare you? The only thing I do want to absolutely stress is that I think the Micmac, there is not enough information there for me. And
yeah, that would be
because
cool.
I feel like if they're making hockey sticks, there must be some kind of
untold
story
some connection there. Yeah.
There has to be. And it drove me nuts that I couldn't find anything beyond that. That they, because all the way back, even before that game, in 1875 in Montreal, they were already selling, I think in the 1860s, even maybe a bit earlier, Micmac brand hockey sticks internationally.
What?
To Australia and everywhere. Yeah. So that should tell you something, that like the game was happening. There was the hockey sticks were able to be sold and in demand, I guess, or something, right?
Yeah.
Before this first indoor game.
There has to be something bigger there then with the Micmac.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge
that's unfortunate that there isn't more written down about it.
I know. And I'm like, get on it, people, because right away white people are obsessed with like the Irish connection and blah 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 and the English connection. I'm like,
because it's what we know, we can document it because they were the ones writing about it, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to give credit.
Is native offensive? Damn it. I never know what's
First
offensive.
Nations, I think. Indigenous.
Yeah, I say First Nations and Indigenous. I get so, for me, it's not an offensive term. I think like people literally native to the land.
I know.
But it
Same.
is, I guess, offensive. And it's like, oh, man.
I know, it's hard.
Yeah.
That was great. I'm going to go play some hockey now.
I'm going to count the number of steps on my stairwell.
Do it.
If there's 13, I'll start crying.
Yeah. Then you'll fall down and break your neck. What?
What a terrible way to end this. I hate you.
You're welcome. All right. Talk to you next week, guys. Bye.
Bye.